you're going to lead off this one. Welcome, guys, and thank you for joining us on episode 6 of the weekly. And back this week, our usual host, except for one, he might join us. Starting off with Mr.
We got
Juan
10
Magnell
minutes.
from Some Gadget Guy. Juan, how's it going, man?
Going well, guys. It's been a fun-filled week, and I'm just really super grateful I didn't get stuck in the snowstorm, weather storms out in Barcelona. So still here in California and not stuck in Spain.
Yay! Cool. All right. And next up, of course, is Mr. Warren Bowman from BW1.com. How's it going, man?
All right, guys, let's do this.
All right, cool. All right, so we've got a post MWC wrap-up show. A lot of announcements, a lot of devices, but we want to kick it off with something, news article. So Warren, could you kick this off for us? Because I know you've probably spent a little bit more time than I, since I kind of just looked at it like before we started the show.
Hold on, I don't have a full synopsis written up for it, but basically, YouTube is being sued essentially for discrimination practices, hiring practices against white and Asian. Is it white and Asian? That the Asian men that they said they were not hiring. They basically the suits brought up saying that not only were they not being hired, but if they would apply, they would essentially they would fill the application out. Just wouldn't look at it at all unless they were in some type of other minority group outside of that. And it's speculative right now, but it's basically sort of saying that Google's has some sketchy hiring practices going on. And the reason I brought it up because it related very similar to that. I cannot remember that guy's name, but the article that was released.
The guy who wrote his manifesto last year.
James Damore.
James Damore. That relates to that from what he says sort of about Google. So I just wanted to get everybody's quick thoughts about it. I don't think you have to spend a lot of time with it, but just everyone's thoughts. I guess starting off with Juan.
Well, I think this is something that we talked about before. Whenever we start incorporating HR and this type of identity quota or identity politics, your company is putting itself in an actionable position. So you start doing these gender and race diversity workshops, you're pointing to certain practices that the business is likely going to be undergoing. Then a guy like James Damore tries to respond to that, and I think he does so inelegantly. Like, I think he does it like an engineer, not someone who's well versed on some of these cultural and gender related topics.
He had graphs and charts and all this pretty stuff.
So
the Venn diagram.
I think in the grander scheme of things, why these people start to become lightning rods for both sides of this conversation is how difficult we find separating the conversation between metrics and data and numbers and trends and someone's personal experience. So like a guy like Sam Harris, I think fits into this very well too, where he can get into a conversation about like police brutality, but he's talking about data. He's not talking about an individual's personal experience with maybe a crappy cop. So it's really difficult to separate the emotion from the information for a lot of people. And this is where we descend into sort of non-debates, but still we have to hash out the feelings versus the information. When it comes to Google, what's especially frustrating are all these sort of modern tech companies that are posturing and virtue signaling. Warren, you shared that Phil DeFranco video coming right on the heels of the YouTube Twitter account, making a big deal out of the gender pay gap. And then at the same time, Google actively supporting policy which would make it seem that it might be discriminating against certain groups and certain demographics is a bad look. So if you're going to posture and virtue signal about this is how we want to work on diversity and equality, but we're also going to discriminate against other people, is very anti-egalitarian. So it's just a scummy story all the way around, because I think as a society, we're only at the first stages of unhashing this new generational feeling on how we should relate to each other, the dynamics between men and women, the dynamics between different ethnic groups. And we're not going to, we shouldn't be led by a corporation Like a corporation should not be the vanguard of the future of our society and morals.
Well, hell, we don't have music. Usually we have somebody make a song. That's what happened. Michael Jackson make a song.
There's no Michael Jackson.
A whole bunch of artists would come together and make a song, and it would solve everything. Somebody needs to make a song.
So, or just like maybe just someone could start us off with just a really beautiful poem, and then someone else could put that to music, and then we could as a society come together and learn and grow. No, but this is exactly it, and I think it's also, it goes hand in hand with some of the other stories we talked about too, with companies like Google and Facebook. These are mega corporations that exist to traffic off of user data. They should not be the tools we use to filter our conversations, to engage in community building. They exist to profit off of us. We are the product in using their services. So we're not going to glean any great insight into what the future of our society should look like by letting them take the wheel. Instead, this is a conversation we need to take back to our neighborhoods, to our local communities, and use that to help inform how we build online discourse and how we build online relations.
I guess a good question, points there on. Like I said, I was really just bringing this article up just because it relates to so much of several things with YouTube and Google in general. It seems like race and gender are sort of a hot topic and a hot discussion and a hot situation for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, but look, like I said before we started, right? Besides even race and gender, from the very get-go, companies like Google and Apple only hired from Ivy League schools. I remember when I got out of college a few years ago. I'm not going to tell you guys when, but
you got out before I did.
but these companies, especially Google, they just hired from Ivy League schools. You know, so again, that was a form of discrimination if we really want to think about it that way too. They said, yes, it is. It is. They didn't.
It isn't though. I
get it. I get it. It's not as in depth or as secure. But they said, okay, this is a better pool for us to pull people out.
If they choose a specific pool they want to pull from. But as long as that pool is, as long as that pool includes,
but here's my point. Here's my point.
Yeah.
Doing that, right, also it helps ensure that the number of minorities they hired was smaller, because my minorities getting
because of the poor representation in those schools. I get what you're getting.
Yeah. So they are now trying to do the shift balance twist over and say, fine, we need to hire more minorities, you know, to do a balance here. And, you know, you now have, you know, whites and Asians being cut off. The problem is the idea of merits and the idea of inclusion with companies has been lost because now everybody's trying to make sure that I look good publicly. That's literally what the
remember we used to make, all of you been to college, remember the diversity photos and the pamphlets?
Exactly.
I mean, that is what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah,
you all know you've been asked to be in a diversity photo. You know, yeah.
Well, I get the point that you're trying to make, and I get the point that Juan is making. And Warren, I think it's a good discussion to have about that Philip DeFranco video and the news that's coming out of the YouTube hiring practices. But this is what I really I'm a huge fan of Philip DeFranco, but I always disagree with him on a few points. I always have like another side to whatever he's talking about. And this is why I like his channel. But this whole idea of hiring by YouTube, to me, I don't see what the biggest deal is about it. You look at the breakdown of employees by ethnicity or by race at Google. Only 2% are Black. 2%. A statistical anomaly.
Yeah, exactly. So, because they went for Ivy League schools, like I said.
Yeah, but excuse me if I think that these corporations need to proactively work to balance those gaps that they themselves created. We might say, oh, these discussions shouldn't happen. Or shouldn't be made by these corporations. It should be done within our society. But guess what? The things that enable us to do what we love to do are funded by the people who pay us to do those things. So yes, you might love being a YouTuber, but your job is actually being an electrician. So guess what? You want to make sure that you hold where you get the primary paycheck from accountable for society, for their societal impacts, because they do have an impact on society. So just saying these companies shouldn't say anything, to me, it removes a huge part of what the solution should be.
Sam,
it's holding everyone. Holding everyone to be accountable, both the politicians, both the corporations, because the corporations have lobbyists and have more of a voice than we do. So we should hold their feet to the fire to be a little bit more conscious of what's going on in society. So Sam, I just think everyone should be involved.
I actually think we agree more than we disagree on this, Sam. My point isn't that companies shouldn't speak up. My point is you put yourself in an actionable position when you do speak up, and your company can't live up to the virtue signaling that they're putting out there. So let's say like Google wants to posture about equality and all of these things that feel really good to say. Well, can they actually walk the walk? Every company can talk the talk. And that's the main point that I'm trying to get at is right now we have a lot of people that like to posture and puff out their chest and say, this is the way things should be. And isn't this terrible? And let's wring our hands. And won't someone think of the children? And then they can't even live up to the ideal that they're sitting there and posturing about.
Yeah, I do understand. I do understand children. Of them, a lot of companies doing that where there's posturing and, they can't actually work that path. And to a certain degree, I guess that lawsuit that has been applied to Google is basically saying Google is actually trying to work the path, right?
Yeah, but Google's being sued for being discriminatory against white and Asian men. They're being sued for being discriminatory against women. So yes, I get what you're saying, Juan, is very apt. It's very clear that they have to walk the walk. But just like I, as a Black man, has to make sure that I live my life in a certain way, and that's checked by all the people I keep around me, my friends and my family. They check me when I move away from what I consider the straight and narrow. But we, in turn, have to hold these corporations' foot to the fire. So we can't just give them an excuse of saying, "Oh, they're just posturing." No, if you're going to open your mouth and say these things, then we, as a community, as consumers, will then say that we're going to hold you responsible and we're going to make sure you deliver on your word.
Oh, no, I agree, but I just think they're posturing anyway, because it's business. Come on. Let's just look. I'm talking about the boardroom, the execs, those guys. It's about, let's cover this quarter. Let's get it done so that we don't get yelled at. Look, as much as you talked all that fancy civil rights stuff, Sam, the matter of fact is in the boardroom.
So fancy, honestly.
Yeah, no, in the boardroom, all they care about is simply this. They care that, okay, we don't look bad in public. Because the shareholder, we all know how it works. So that's why I said there is that posturing, no matter how you look at it. Because it's like, let's cover faces, cover bases, and let's let it disappear. That's what companies do. We all know how they work. The sooner the news cycle vanishes away, the better we feel.
And in terms of discussion, that's also why I think we're seeing a lawsuit. Whether or not this lawsuit actually has merit, what is the lawsuit really good at doing? It's really good at drawing attention and getting people to engage in conversation around things. It's a really expensive way to do that, but one tool at our disposal for, like you were saying, Sam, holding their feet to the fire. So it's never about we should tell these companies to shut up, or we should tell these companies not to engage in this kind of practice. It's we should hold them accountable for how. So in a capitalist society, what's the best way to hold a corporation accountable for their actions?
True.
Money. Making sure that you basically either go to the competitor or remove money.
That's right. So how do you engage in the discussion to make sure that people understand that they should do business with a competitor to Google?
Yeah.
Do you take out ads in the Wall Street Times? Do you try and buy airtime on TV? Like what? How do you beat Google? How do you take your capitalist consumer dollars and vote with your wallet somewhere else? As we do this podcast on Google Hangouts through YouTube.
Anyway, guys, all right, let's move forward to something maybe more lighthearted. Woo!
Yeah,
tech.
lighthearted.
Yeah. So MWC was this past week. There were a lot of announcements. The Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus, of course, were the main topics at the show, and also came out yesterday that finally, Samsung has the highest DxO Mark scores. Bam! Up there ever.
I mean, it's like not even worth me even spending time with the phone now because it's basically just the winner, right?
It's the perfect one.
Yeah, it's totally perfect. It's over 100. So on a scale of like 1 to 100.
But I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to see the phone yet, Juan. Have you?
No, I haven't gotten hands on it.
Warren, you have. So just and Sam, you've kind of seen it. Warren, thoughts on the S9? The camera, just general like summarize, and also like how this new DxO scores come to play.
So as far as the phone's concerned, it's a modest upgrade. They purposely didn't change much from the design because I don't think they had anything they needed to change, and they felt they didn't need anything to change. And I think their response kind of was.
Okay, wait. Here's the thing. Everybody keeps forgetting. Next year is the S10. You don't change anything.
Yeah, well,
you don't. You can't change too much.
Well, no, but listen, can you let me finish?
No, I just wanted to say that because anytime I ask people that question, they always say they didn't need to. I was like, come on, next year is the S10.
I was going to go more forward into that whole.
My bad. Sorry, I jumped it. My bad. Sorry. No. Okay.
As I was saying, they didn't, speaking with them, they didn't change about the design because the S8 was a very popular design, and it's an evolution of what they started with the S7 anyway. So it makes sense to go a third device with the same sort of design language that they kind of go forward with because it's been popular for them and been successful. So it makes sense to keep going in that direction. Software seems to be on par with what we expect. It's got a Snapdragon 845 processor inside of it. You got the 4 and 6 gigabyte RAM differences. I do like the fact that they have differentiated the S9 and S9 Plus in a way so that if you're a Plus user and you've spent that more money, you're actually gaining more from spending more money on that particular phone with the extra camera on it, and also the bigger battery and the 6 gigs of RAM, and obviously the bigger screen as well too. It just makes it so that Note that comes out later this year has to really be something special, hopefully. Coming out later this year. The main focus has been on the camera, and the camera is really good. It looks like it's a beast, and from the shots that I've taken, it's done very well in auto mode. You almost don't really need to change to any of the other like the pro controls unless you're looking for something really, really specific. The AR emojis things is kind of funny. I do like the fact that when you do create your AR emoji, it creates a whole bunch of GIFs immediately of your AR emoji. So it just saves you time to spam your friends because you were going to do this anyways. So I do like that that's there. I do like what I think I most like about it that isn't really seen, and it makes me happy for the future cameras, is the technology that they were using. And they were sort of talking about this terrible name that must have been named by Capcom, which is Super Speed Dual Pixel Sensor, and please get a better name for this.
It's a sensor we talked about last year.
Yeah,
it had a better name last year.
Yeah, they had a better name than they did this year. But basically, being able to on the center process things before spitting it out to the main processor on the phone to produce these images, and that makes me really excited for the more things that they could do with that particular technology when it comes to imaging. I remember talking with the guy, the Samsung rep there that was sort of demoing the slow motion feature, and they were talking about how that entire process of slow-mo being created is actually being created on the sensor itself before it even hits the rest of the phone. So this on the processor and RAM on the sensor is actually creating those super slow motion images. Then it's pushing it out itself afterwards after that. And that's something that's really cool that I think we really hadn't seen since Nokia, if I believe correctly, doing that type of stuff, especially with the 1020 in terms of really going on the actual sensor, getting things done on the sensor before it pushes out to the rest of the phone. And that makes me excited for where image quality can kind of go going forward. But that's just sort of my hot take on it, I guess. I think Sam might be the only other one besides me and E that has some interactions with it. So if you want to sort of share your thoughts.
Not really many, though. The photos on that thing are quite impressive. The low light is really impressive. And I would like to see what the variable aperture does.
The dual aperture. They need better marketing names for this.
Yeah,
they do. They need to give me some gimmicky name that I can complain about.
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
not
that's very true.
Samsung Vision 5.2.
That is very true.
If they'd have called this Bixby camera or Bixby whatever the crap, I would have taken that. If they just want to label it Bixby something, well, that's fine.
Yeah, the dual. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, I think by the Note 8 they will come out with the right terminology for it, and
They're
maybe
just going to
that's what
call
I'm
it
waiting
Bixby
for.
because they've just heard me say it. So they're
Yeah.
going to call it Bixby Vision, a Bixby camera, a
They
Bixby.
already have a Bixby Vision.
I
Well,
know.
they'll just repurpose it. Microsoft did with the Surface.
No, Bixby Vision now just does everything. That's all it is. But I did. For me, the camera has been really good. I have my camera samples video up, and I was impressed with some of the shots that I was able to take on auto. Because normally those shots, like I'm like this. I'm like I go to pro mode and be like, yeah, and take it. But like the auto shots were really, really good. One thing I appreciate is that Samsung's oversaturation of especially the color red back there. They've toned it down. They have.
Yeah, but it's still there, man.
No, it's the look compared to last year, and
well, it's just still noticeable. You can tell, like when you start. So when you're looking at this DxO review and you look at the pictures from the iPhone and also from the Pixel, you're like, oh, that's the Samsung one. That like 8 times out of 10, you're like, oh, that's the Samsung one.
I mean, yeah, but we all know how Samsung does red, man. They just put that thing in your face like you want that red. And
they do red. They do red, blue, and colors like that. They red, blue, yellow, orange are always that.
Well, so what the big problem is Samsung just oversaturates everything. They go for a really juicy, what's going to look good on an AMOLED screen. So the blues and the greens get boosted too, but red clipping is still the most difficult for any digital sensor to contend with. So you add that extra saturation on top of this tiny little phone sensor already struggling to maintain clarity on red objects, and you get that sizzled magenta, over boosted, overdriven image.
It can make a midwinter photo look like the middle of fall or something.
That is very true. But you know, one of the things I liked with the camera, I mean the super slow-mo, but you mentioned that with how they're processing. And I think this year we're going to see something very interesting because what Qualcomm has done with the 845, if you look at all the different phones we have in that list and how they are picking and choosing how they want to use the processing in there. So like Samsung using the DRAM is actually because they're using there's a separate ISP that processes out of the 845 chipset just for camera. And Samsung is using that for super slow-mo, same as Sony. But Sony is also doing 4K HDR, which is also separate out. Like those kind of things. Now we're getting that kind of specialization where everyone is now looking at the chipset and going like, we can do this and we can do that. We can, like to Sam's point, we can specialize our phone a certain way to a certain degree to say, okay, we are masters of this domain, right? Right now, the Xperia XZ2 does 4K HDR. And it doesn't do 4K 60, I think. I have to check, but I know Samsung does 4K 60, doesn't do 4K HDR. Can somebody just give us everything? I mean, if the chipset can do everything, just throw it in there. Come on.
So my question to that would be: should LG be worried about the V30 then? Because we're seeing Samsung beef up its camera / creator kind of specific phone. We're seeing the XZ, what's it called, the XZ2. It's like the Z2, the X2. No, the XZ2.
No, but even the Asus Zenfone 5Z, with its whole
everyone
AI
seems to be going
capture
towards that creator drive now for like just specialized phone. So does the V30 kind of lose a little bit of its dominance if we have Samsung, Sony, Asus coming after it right now?
I would say no if LG could lead a conversation. If LG could get out there and say, hey, we've been doing this since the V10, where you all been? Then no. But I don't have any faith in them really joining that conversation. You can get into the creator space. I think the Pixel is one version of a creator phone. A lowest common denominator, push button, get HDR. That's one kind of the conversation. Samsung, I think, still maintains this great all-rounder perspective. But even with the S9's improvements over the S8, it's still an all-rounder. It's not a specialist tool. So an LG V40 could come out the gates, compete on chipset, look at some of these new camera features that people are going gaga over, but built into the V30 are things like bitrate control, frame rate control, shutter speed for video. People don't seem to understand that shutter speed is different than your frame rate. And there are reasons why you might want to change your shutter speed within a given frame rate. Log capture, if you want to get into color grading. The V30 still maintains a position as a specialist tool outside of what Samsung's doing with the Galaxy S9. But it's not up to consumers to figure that out. It's up to LG to lead the discussion so that they know this is an option.
Well, Buddha brings up LG's device, that they quietly announced at MWC, the LG V30 ThinkQ.
Thank you, Aggie X Plus Alpha. And if I say that name enough times and raise the phone near, I wonder if it turns me into a Power Ranger.
So here's the thing about the ThinkQ that is a little bit disturbing. So just watching people's videos, because I wasn't at MWC, and some people said like, yeah, it did well in certain aspects, it didn't not so well. And then I'm watching Jaime's video with the Asus Zenfone 5C, and then you realize the difference there. What they're trying to do AI with the 835 and the 845 it's almost night and day, as in the Asus identifies different specific objects, whether it's a cat, whether it's a dog, whether it's a type of flower.
Yeah, like Huawei's.
Exactly, like Huawei's chipset. And so to me, I'm going, LG, why didn't you just say there was an update coming to the V30 instead of making this phone again? And we know that the 835 is not necessarily tuned, the way for this, as opposed to say the new device. Like, I just don't understand the strategy.
Well, it's that they still want to have something to talk about in the first half of the year. So this is just a stopgap measure. This isn't iPhone 8. This isn't what the company's actually pouring resources into deliver. Next.
I don't think we're going to hear anything until I think they're going to go back to their traditional times of release, which was in May. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, and what I'm hoping is LG gives up on a split year strategy and they go to a once a year big little phone strategy to try and beat the iPhone in the second half of the year.
Nah, it's not gonna happen. Your phone is coming out in May. I mean,
Evan
Bass already announced it.
No, that's what I mean though.
The V30 is gonna come out after that too. I mean, V40 or whatever.
Okay, but anyway, what I would hope is that they would stop this notion that we need a small flagship phone in the beginning of the year and a big flagship phone in the second half of the year, and just do big little like Samsung does with the S9 and the S9 Plus. Follow what we've learned from going to the G6 to the V30. Stop pretending that they're separate phone lines. The G6 is a baby V30. The V30 is a bigger G6. Like, make one frame that contains all of this stuff and go forward with that being launched at the same time, where you get the benefit in the second half of the year. Probably easier times acquiring, good pricing on Qualcomm 845s, production spun up. They'll have had another year to refine their OLED tech, their camera tech. Everything would just be better at the second half of the year.
I mean,
I think it would also, in the end of the day, I find more people like their V series amongst more casual and common users than they do of their G series. So it kind of makes sense if they maybe made a focus in merging the two, or maybe going fully V series in terms of their flagship branding and retiring the G series maybe. But knowing them, they'll just put the names together and call it VG blah 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 with ThinkQ, and all of a sudden it turns you into a Power Ranger. I don't know.
Is it really ThinkQ?
Yeah,
I thought it was just Think, because it's THINQ.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, it's probably Think, but I mean, like, everybody just calls it ThinkQ because
I thought they were trying to go for thin kind of stuff, like a thin.
Again, let's talk about how much evidence LG gives us that they're bad at talking to people.
Juan, don't kick a man when he's down, man.
I need them to learn. I need them to understand how much of a fan I am of their hardware.
While you're down, like, I need you to learn.
Because it's little things. Like, my V30 just got its update for the January security patch cycle. And I was actually pleasantly surprised because, I went 6 or 7 months on the V20 before it got any kind of patch or update. So, like, little baby steps, little hints that they could possibly be getting better at this stuff. The commitment they made for their business certification on the V series phones, that they were trying to stay on top of this kind of stuff, like no more than a 90-day window before delivering bug fixes and patches, and like that's great. You still have this humongous problem in branding and talking to your consumers, and like that no one knows about this, that no one understands what thin Q, think you, thinky, whatever this new branding is. It's not going to make sense unless you're out there leading the discussion. It's kind of like that throwaway scene in That Thing You Do, where they're the Wonders, but they're spelled the Oneaters, and no one can pronounce their name right. And they're like, this is LG. This is LG's biggest problem in a nutshell. It's not the products. It's not the support. I mean, the support is an issue, but the biggest problem, number one, is consumers aren't gonna do their homework just to figure out your brand.
Yeah. You know what? You know when they've been having this problem? They need to get our boy Brian back in there, man. They get our boy Brian.
That's true. Let's move on to some of the other devices. So the Xperia XZ2, just general thoughts. What do you guys think about that device? Sony didn't give pricing. They said it's going to come out June. For that, I guess they're trying to stay far away from Samsung as possible. But
is this UK first or UK only?
I don't know. You asking me difficult questions. Do I look like I work at Sony?
Because seriously, reading this and looking at the specs on here, I'm thinking a lot of people in the US would want it, but we all know what Sony does.
Yeah.
We don't know how they are.
It is a nice device.
It'll come out January 2019.
Yeah, it is a nice device. And in terms of like, I mean, like the one thing I just want to see is how their camera handles, because the camera software is what lets them down. Sony supplies the sensor for almost everyone on the planet in terms of like cell phone sensors. It's just that their processing just doesn't, come to bat with this. They're heavily tied with the 845 from Qualcomm in a lot of aspects. I mean, they clearly stated it when I went checked it out with Sony at the brief, and they talked about how they're even using Qualcomm's audio codec. They're not using theirs anymore for the audio processing on USB Type-C.
But I'd be surprised. Like I was pretty confident that Sony wasn't doing anything special with audio since the Xperia X. I mean, them banking on the Sony name, their actual output has been pretty mediocre over the last couple generations.
Yeah, I mean, I know Qualcomm has two new audio codecs. One that helps give every Android manufacturer of full support for USB Type-C in terms of either, when you're throwing a DAC in there, as well as also a new one for 3.5, which still both lay on the chipset. So Sony said, yeah, they're going with that, and they took away the headphone jack. They didn't tell me why, but they just took it away. But I think in general, I think the device is solid. But like you said, Sam, nobody knows if it's coming or when it's coming to the US. We do know it's June, and most likely that would be
or 2020.
That might be Europe first,
It's just
I'd be very surprised.
Oh, it's definitely going to be. It'll be Australia and Europe first that'll come out, because that's their two biggest markets.
Yeah.
Remember over there, and remember in Europe and in Australia, it's the X2.
I mean, that's what it is. It's Z. We just it's not Z.
Warren is showing us how worldly he is. Just Z.
Yeah.
So I'm just showing my levels of sophistication. That's all.
But Sam just said is like 4K HDR recording. Every phone this year is capable of doing that technically. If you have an A45, it literally is. It's weird now. It's like, do you switch this feature on or no? And I think that's the thing. It's like I'm wondering, will companies just decide to switch on all the features, or would they just pick and choose what they want to? Because in this case, we're seeing Samsung with 4K 60, Sony with 4K HDR, and then somebody would pick something else, and then
somebody's gonna go 8K.
They're going with AI features for the camera. What do you guys think about that with the Zenfone 5Z?
Didn't they do AI last year?
Not well.
Didn't they do that last year?
Well, the problem with Sony is we kind of lose sight of where they're at, because they don't really they don't really join the conversation for us at all either. So they have a bunch of those. Do you remember way back on like the very first builds of Windows Phone 8 where the Nokia camera would have these plug-in lenses that would give you different capabilities, like you could selectively focus after the photo was taken.
Yeah,
one special lens that had a different lens for panorama. Sony still does that. It was only, I think, this last year where 4K video recording was not a separate lens plug-in to the camera. It was finally natively built into the camera app. Wow. So we're still like, that's a type of thought, that's a type of design that's now like 3 or 4 years old.
Just 3 or 4. Let's call it what it is. 5 years old.
5 years old.
No, I mean, like, it was actively being used about 3 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it took Samsung, I think, the S6 generation to get out of fireworks mode, candlelit dinner mode. You know, you would have all those bullshit modes in your camera app that you would never use.
But you did. But remember, you didn't have to come out of the camera to use that particular mode or application with it. Which in the end of the day was just a filter. But
Sony tried to be clever. Like, you would install this plugin and then it would be a separate menu in the camera app to access these little software plugins. It was ripped off directly, in my opinion, from the Windows Phone, the Nokia camera app, which did the same thing. You would go to your lenses in the camera app and it would really take you to a separate piece of software that still utilized the camera. They're still kind of doing that. So their AI stuff and their AR stuff are basically just these little plug-in apps that run. It's not like Samsung. Samsung has gone whole hog. That camera app on the S9 is a huge piece of software. I think Sony kind of needs to make the same transition, but I don't trust that they can. I really don't trust that they have the talent to migrate that in one phone generation from the XE1 to the XE2.
Yeah, I mean, I know David did a more in-depth breakdown into some of the features. So we'll have to, if you want to go check it out. You might have some more details on the camera.
Remember Sony and their Timescape UI? That just brought me back.
Oh God, let's move forward, please. Hey, Zenfone 5Z.
Go look at CES 2010 video if you want to check out Timescape UI.
The one thing I do want to say before we leave Sony, though, is I'm already pissed off by the people that are complaining about the build for the XZ2C. They're like, oh, the compact is going to be made out of plastic, and now Sony's screwing us. And you're like, no, I'm so tired of glass. I'm so happy.
So here's the thing. I mean, I felt the compact. Like, literally, I carried the compact, and I mean, you know, it's plastic, but it's still well built. Like, I was like, it's baby one.
If you make a phone out of a high quality injection molded polycarb frame, like, that feels good. That's what the Pixel is trying to fake with their really crap primer paint.
It's all Nokia. All the old school Nokia phones was that. Anyway,
it's better than painting a metal frame. And you learned this lesson. Google needs to learn this lesson. If you're going to make a phone feel like plastic, make it out of a high quality plastic. That is better. And people are going to, oh, that's not premium. Well, fuck glass. Glass is terrible. So let's not play this game, tech reviewer.
Well, depends what type of glass. Depends on what it is. I like glass. We didn't even talk about the S9's best feature. That lilac.
Oh, the color.
That lilac, man. I need a lilac Note 9. I'm saying I got a tie that can match. I got a type that matches that.
You guys know I won't be lit up about a Galaxy until we see a Galaxy S9 active. You know, I'm just not really gonna care until I get a phone.
They don't make lilac camouflage.
No, they
I would be all. I mean, considering what they did with like,
kind of doesn't make it camouflage.
That blue camo was sick. That's still, I think, one of the best looking phones Samsung has ever made.
Samsung will make a lilac camo.
They better, man.
I don't know what you're hiding from.
Yeah.
I could pull off like professional corporate man salmon camo. Let's do it.
Yo, they should make a salmon camo.
Right?
They should make a salmon camera.
No, they're just this is what you stated. You're like, man, salmon camo. Like,
whoa. Let's calm down.
It's like, it's chic and ready for the boardroom and ready to be lost in a cotton candy factory. It's the perfect camouflage.
I'm trying to
takes you everywhere.
Okay, out that lilac for business meeting.
All right,
I love it.
it's just Zenfone 5Z. We were trying to get there, and we got lost in this whole light conversation.
Sony had a lilac purple phone at one point too. I remember they used to have that color for some of their
They
phones.
have a purple XZ2, which is not.
And they use a pretty good shade too.
It's a nice shade, but I think the lilac on the S9 looks so much better.
Yeah, it does. It's better than rose gold, pink, whatever crap nonsense that I will be putting out.
Yeah. So yeah, 5Z. Come on, people. Let's focus here. I know you're getting color crazy.
I don't even want to hear any more about this Asus Zenfone. Just the notch kills it. I'm sorry.
Notch kills it.
Yeah,
let's just go ahead and jump to that.
The notch is spreading. Yeah, I mean,
it's just if you're gonna copy from someone, copy the better features. Don't copy what we all recognize to be a poor design decision. And they put it on there like what they want to fake an iPhone. Hey, if you want to fake even the bad design decisions, here you go.
Well, think about where these phones are being sold. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing, right? The iPhone said the notch was because of the new sensors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those new sensors are in the 845, and Samsung has the AR emojis, right? Done. Like, you don't need to do anything else. So why do you need to do a notch? Like, to me, that's where the
because they got bad design engineers.
Yeah, it's a poor design decision.
It really is just looking at the iPhone. I think it was. Did I say this joke? The Louis Rossmann. You guys know who Louis Rossmann is? He's that really cranky East Coast guy. Works on Apple computers. Got like a whole channel dedicated to like. He's also like trying to do like life philosophy and stuff like that too. But,
no.
But he made this joke, and I'm totally gonna butcher it. But it's like if you were a really successful businessman and you like worked your butt off, and you're doing like 20-hour days, and you got this incredible work ethic, but you also go home and like rub Jello on your nipples every night. Then another person came along and said, well, he's successful and he rubs Jello on his nipples every night, and he doesn't copy any of like the work ethic or the infrastructure, taking it to the office, and instead
where is this going on?
The rubbing nipples with Jello. That's like the notch.
You had me in rubbing
the notch.
I was like, where is he going? I hope there's a point here. There's an ending. There's something.
You're only copying one aspect of the design. You're not actually gonna be Apple because of the whole infrastructure. So you're literally showing your consumers all we're doing is ripping off the shape and the form factor of the iPhone. We don't have Apple stores. We don't have iOS. We don't have, any of the infrastructure that makes Apple a compelling option for consumers. No iMessage, nothing else. But we saw the notch, and we saw that the iPhone 10 still sold like 30 million units. And so we think that's what consumers want.
To make them a notch above the rest.
Fucking brow. All right.
Okay. A company who was smarter in terms of trying to find the image so I can share it. Google is not letting me do this properly, but a company that I give props is Vivo. Vivo showcase.
The Apex concept looks really cool.
So this is my screen, and you can see.
Oh Lord, no.
My bad.
Keep going, no.
So this is the Apex, Vivo Apex.
No, it's still going all over the place.
It's still going?
Yeah.
Really? Never mind.
I think you just screen shared the window for the Hangout, but then again, it might be broken.
It's broken. Like I was trying to. Okay,
we've been able to do lower thirds. So.
Yeah. And I'm trying to do a lower third, and I still can't. So I don't know how you guys were able to do it.
It just showed up. It was there.
Yeah, okay, but I can't. So this is the Apex, right? Look at the screen to body ratio is really small on this thing, which is absolutely fantastic. But it also has a pop-up camera, and for some reason, there we go. That's the pop-up camera here. It's a better look. So the camera pops up from the bottom, and you can take your selfies if you want to.
Your screen's too wide.
Yeah, too wide.
Too wide, bro.
God have mercy. Fine. How about this? Is this better? Is that better for you guys?
It's too wide, bro.
You know what? Forget you guys.
What happened? Oh, what happened? How'd you have the background of a koi? What happened?
You said okay was staring too much. I find I'll change it in a second. I'll change it back. I had a quote
everyone out
from Black Panther, and he was like, "Yeah, that's a little too in depth, bro." Like, so anyway, guys, what do you guys think? I know Juan, you're about to say something about it. The 845. I'm sorry, the Vivo Apex.
So this is where I'm interested in what we can do with smartphone design. It's why I thought the Mi Mix 2 had a better solution for the notch. Taking the webcam to the upper tiny corner of the phone. That looks like a better solution, IMO. And so we can put web cameras smack dab in the middle of the screen, and be able to make eye contact with the people that we're video chatting with. So this little pop-up Periscope camera, I don't really think that's a tremendously good solution for a consumer lifestyle product, but it at least shows a company that's trying to think about how we really use these things, when we really use these things, and how important they are to the experience. I got to throw props to Huawei on the MateBook X Pro, the laptop that they revealed for MWC. I got to go hands-on with that.
Yeah.
And building the web camera into a function key on the keyboard is really smart if your data shows you that your customers use their screen way more than they use the webcam. It's the biggest problem I have with the iPhone 10, and why I think the notch is terrible design, is you use your screen for everything. You should not interrupt the most important aspect of your data device for a slightly better webcam. That's bad design. That's terrible. So you have to make compromises somewhere else. Like maybe there's a little Periscope pop-up click on the phone, or there's like a lower mounted webcam than you would normally want on the MateBook X. But ultimately, what do we have? We have an all-screen device. And so the thing that I also find very compelling, the thing I do think we'll see in a consumer device very soon, is the entire bottom half of the Apex being a fingerprint sensor.
Yeah, which they actually showcased. They've increased the area of the phone. So instead of it just being one location, it's about 25% of the device. So you can just put your finger right there.
Because like if we're going to put this fingerprint sensor into the phone, then we also need to get rid of the idea that there's a target you have to hit.
Yeah,
that's not good design. It's the same thing, like I get pissed off about cars that have basically a tablet as your interface. You need something better than that. You can't have this like, well, we'll just trust that our audience will have the muscle memory. We'll just trust that our audience will build the muscle memory to always nail it perfectly.
Side eye.
Instead, just make it one giant target that's
look at Sam's face. That just looks so crazy.
Thanks, Warren. I was trying not to say anything, and then you.
Let's bring a little culture into this. The three black guys in here know what that look is and have gotten it from plenty of black women. You've done something wrong.
Something very wrong. You're not
Juan, I'm sorry. I derailed Juan's argument. Juan's like, I was trying to say something really important here, and I should have.
Not as important as some good side eye.
It just automatically makes you think as a black man that you did something wrong. You didn't even do anything.
But that E is using that as his wallpaper definitely speaks to something that E might be into.
In-depth shaming right there. Some deep-seated shame.
What is wrong with you people? No. Let's not even go there. Finish it.
It looks even more epic when you see it in 49 inches wide and stuff like that. And you walk in and it's just this side eye and it's like, what's going on? What did I do wrong?
So something tells me E's about that. Like I know what you did. I know where you've been.
All right.
Richie Eagles, 50 Shades of Juan.
Oh, man.
Anyway, Juan, you were saying. So we can...
No, I mean, I think I kind of wrapped up that idea. It's what we want to see, because the smartphone is a commodity, right, guys? I mean. Yeah. I think Samsung has shown us that we don't necessarily need to be looking for boundary pushing change from device to device anymore. We want to fix these little nuance problems. Maybe it's a touch to something ergonomic. It's likely going to be a lot of software driven stuff over the next 2 generations as software catches up to the power of these portable hardware, mini supercomputers that fit in your pocket. So the smartphone design is pretty much done until we can figure out a couple things. Like I was saying, like the change in using a phone between the S9 and a phone with a 100% screen to body ratio is going to be exceedingly minimal. Like there's going to be very little difference in using that phone day to day. And there are going to be a whole bunch of BS arguments like, oh, it just couldn't handle the bezels. And you're like, I don't care about bezels. I care about actually moving smartphone design into more interesting places. Some of that's going to be peeling services off of the smartphone, and some things are going to be fixing some of the problems that we still have. Things like selfie cameras, webcam, video chat, how terrible that experience still kind of is because of the limitations of our hardware today. But those aren't fundamentally going to change the aspect of using the phone. So it's always exciting to see companies that are still trying to address some of those issues. If we've got an all-screen device, we shouldn't lie. We shouldn't cut into the screen and still say it's an all-screen device. That's not good design. So the pop-up Periscope is an aspect of that, a company actually trying to address that in a concept device. And so I hope there are some ideas from this concept device that make it into actual production.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh yeah, just finally, and Nokia released a bunch of phones. They released the Matrix phone in banana color as well, for those who like that.
Ring, banana phone.
Yeah, but you know the one where Neo went. Just give you the Keanu Reeves sound effect there, and he talks to Morpheus for the first time. He's like, "Who is this? Get down. They're watching you." Where? So there's that, and then they also had the Nokia 8 Sirocco, which used to be one of their premium lines. Those phones used to be like $700-800. They were just flip phones back in the day that had some WebEx, so some rudimentary web access stuff. But it's coming powered at 835. I'm trying to find. It's the link that I have. The link's in the description, guys, just so you know. And that's powered by an 835 processor. It's got a dual camera setup.
Nokia 8?
The 8 Sirocco, yeah.
Sirocco?
Yeah, it's a
Oh my
POLED.
God! Why do they not call this Ciroc and make a brand deal?
No, because the Sirocco is an old brand they had. That's why they're using it again. They're rehashing.
I'm talking about Diddy and Ciroc and the alcohol and having running around with a Nokia phone.
That sounds like alcohol. That's really going to let parents buy that for their kids.
Well, I mean, this one is not geared.
Hey, I'm trying to get Nokia to sell some phones here, and Diddy dancing around with the phone all up in your music video, and if it's Nokia, it'll start to sell.
God, that phone is shiny.
Actually, I don't know that Nokia is having too many problems. Like their first year of sales has actually been pretty good.
This isn't Nokia. This is HMD. Whoever.
I mean, yeah, but it's HMD.
It's the Nokia label. I mean, it's Nokia engineers. It's Nokia designers.
They even brought back the Nokia camera, the Nokia camera app as well to the devices, which is still one of the best apps to go into pro mode because you just swipe and then
the layout is really good.
But it's the original Nokia designers designing the camera. Is the question.
What?
Well, yeah, they got all the tech back. They just don't have all of the brand names back.
Yeah,
no, but
what's funny is Microsoft didn't keep the licensing, the tech. They kept the names. They kept PureView and Clear Black and all that stuff, but not the actual tech that drove
which to me
trademarks.
Which is just
hilarious,
silly. That's a dumb thing. I thought they took that, which is why, because they also had some of the engineers at first, and I was like, oh, look at this thing, man! It's got a 3.5mm jack. No, but it does come with 24-bit audio through the
6 gigs RAM, Snapdragon 835 POLED.
Not a bad phone. Not a bad phone.
120 gigabytes of internal storage. That's pretty massive.
Yeah,
12 megapixel cameras, and it's just like Nokia was the king of cameras, and maybe we'll finally see the Nokia brand on Android doing really well, which is the thing I was screaming about since before they even went to Windows. Was that I really thought they'd still be around if they initially had just taken the chance to go with Android.
They were losing money hand over fist. Yeah, you go check the financials back then. It was bad.
And did they gain anything from it other than getting bought out and then tossed out in the trash quicker than the sidekick?
This is us going back to the same argument we made back then. I said they just didn't have money. It's somebody who's either going to buy them or do what Microsoft.
Well, they did not have money, and Android was free to develop on. They could have threw something out there.
Oh God, somebody doesn't understand. They didn't have money. That's what I'm telling you. Like they were running out of money until Microsoft said, "We will save you," because it was bankruptcy was the next thing. It wasn't like
Would have been better off.
It's not
Still
like
would have been better
HTC where
off.
HTC actually still has some sales and it's like doing this in the water. It's like just coming up for air. Nokia was like going out the window.
Still would have been better off. Go in bankruptcy, clearing some things out, rebrand and restructure themselves, and come back out again properly. They'd still be probably at the top there. Instead, they got bought up by a company that didn't give a crap about them, other than to pretend that they really wanted to put phones out. Didn't really put any good phones out. It used the Nokia brand and tossed it out just as quick as they tossed out Danger with the Sidekick, and they tossed out those Kin phones.
Oh, the Kin phones.
All that same, all saying that same pile of crap. That could have been better off and had not been bought by Microsoft. Let's make this official. Microsoft's not allowed to buy any mobile products, anything mobile related.
There we go.
Do not support one iota of any hardware that's mobile for them.
See, the person who should have bought Nokia back then, but Google was not in the business. If they had bought Nokia, they would have had a brand name and also a
they probably
regret but also back then Google wouldn't have been able to
Google was not in the mindset
either. They bought out Motorola.
Yeah.
Yes, true. Yeah. Never mind. Forget it. Just scrap that.
The acquisition never works because you have to blend one corporate. I mean, this takes me all the way back to I love classic Saabs. My all-time favorite cars. They're funky, they're quirky.
Yeah.
First production turbo in a tiny little consumer two-door saloon. When they got optioned by GM, you had radical differences in corporate culture that they could never reconcile. And so when GM finally forced the issue and slapped the Saab branding on a more GM-built car, it was terrible. And it's the same thing. I mean, this is why
Jaguar, not Jaguar, Land Rover.
Oh yeah, and who did Land Rover? Land Rover bounced to from
Tata.
Ford.
That's right.
Now with Tata, but it went from Ford, and then I think the person who picked it up right after Ford was Tata, right?
Yeah, but Tata is like, yo, Land Rover, just go do your thing, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, so what you need is basically a silent partner that's just gonna let a company try and figure out its way and
HMD,
okay with the risk of losing its.
HMD is not a silent partner. HMD owns it. They just call it Nokia.
Yeah, but you don't see a single point of their branding or their name or anywhere around this. This is just
because nobody knows what HMD is. Nobody does. Microsoft, people know who Microsoft is.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
so that's the way it should be. Look at. I mean, not to knock them. Look at Facebook when they buy things and they put it out there. I mean, Instagram and WhatsApp are still their things, and it's not like they have their entire name branding all over the damn thing.
Well, I would say the flip side to that, Warren, is what we're seeing with HTC and Google. The flip side would be don't pretend that this is going to be a separate company that operates underneath. But you're right. You shouldn't see co-branding. The Pixel doesn't have.
That's what frustrates me about Lenovo. That's what frustrates me about Lenovo and Motorola thing. That's what frustrates me about that thing because it's Lenovo Moto thing. Considering that I think Lenovo has some really cool phones that they never bring over here. That's really cool design. I don't need another Moto over and over again. Let's bring their phones. I thought that's what they were going to leverage that for.
Their phones need to go. I mean, as much as they were cool designs, they were not solid phones. You start using them, they were not solid. And the problem with Lenovo and Moto is also the fact that, let's be honest, last year in 3 months they released 3 phones. Why? Like, who does that? What kind of stupidity is that?
That might have already been on. That might have already been in their.
Then you space it out, or you don't. You just don't do it because at some point people are like, which.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say just space out a launch, but
they might have already spent the money and committed the money to doing that.
No, that is just dumb planning from the very beginning.
No, they might have committed.
Once you have resources committed, you go with it because to delay a phone launch is going to cost your company way more than having multiple phone launches.
We might see this year. We might see what they have as Lenovo's plan instead of what they for Moto, which was essentially Google's plan before whoever the hell. I don't know. Is Motorola even a company anymore?
No, it's just a division of Lenovo, and let's just call it that. Anyway, let's go ahead and round up the show.
All right, I actually got to take off, guys. So
all right,
I will catch you guys later.
Good chat,
peace. Mr. Juan Bagnell, can you tell people what they can expect on your channel and what's you have currently this week?
So we did another episode of the Geek Book Club, so that went out. We did the official wrap up for our headphone debate, which was a lot of fun to put together between you and Mr. Ron Richards.
Yeah,
And,
people, you know who won, right? Who won? It was me. It was me. You know, it's because like.
Well, you know what's interesting?
No. Forget your stats, man. I watched that shit now. It's just false.
Okay, so I won't
go check out
the ending. Go check out the not only just the debate, but also the wrap up to the debate. And on Patreon, I do have the entire run of both the debate and the wrap up as one podcast. If people want to go and check that out, it's 1 2-hour block of audio all talking about headphones and design and smartphones.
And I completely killed it, man. Like I didn't even like do any study. I just woke up and I was like, yo, it's over, man. Like it's a wrap.
Yeah, but what's interesting is in the wrap up video, I share some of my thoughts, and I think there were a couple key points
I missed.
That
you know why? You know what? I told you, right? It's like because I thought I was going to, for some reason, I thought I was going to do the rebuttal immediately, and then I just completely forgot. Like I was like, I had at least like 5 things queued up for him. I was like, I am going.
Debates are hard, man. Like I got to give it up to both of you guys. Like it is not easy to sum up an argument and really maximize your time. People love to like piss on debates and the commentary and just like, you know, oh well, they totally should have mentioned this, or Ron totally doesn't understand what a DAC is. And the thing is, it's not that easy. People think, you know, like they could do it. Most people can't. So I do want to like give you guys a huge thumbs up because debates are not casual. Like that is a very aggressive, time managed, under the gun style of conversation. And I thought you both rose to the occasion really well. For next week, we're planning some cool stuff with Newegg. We did a really fun head-to-head on not yesterday, Thursdays, Newegg now, and not this next week, but coming up soon. I finally did schedule a proper sit-down with one of the top audiologists in the country. She's a doctor who works out of UCLA, and I'm going to be interviewing her. A really proper sit-down conversation with someone who really knows her stuff. Talking about hearing loss in young people as we're getting into this sort of audio discussion beyond just entertainment, but you know, what about mobile technology is maybe exacerbating the situation? Like we're basically training kids to make themselves go deaf by the time they're in their 20s. So that'll be an upcoming conversation on the Gadget Guy channel. And lastly, we did release a new episode of the Geek Book Club. It's our review of Altered Carbon, which is also a Netflix show. And as soon as Andrew finishes watching the Netflix show, we want to have you, Enabong and Lou Rod, Boogaloo, on to chat about adaptations. That's something I think we want to pay more attention to. Are all the books we're reading for the Geek Book Club, a lot of them have been turned into other pieces of media. And so what is it about making a book into a new piece of media that we find so interesting?
Cool. On our end, it's a bunch of S9 stuff. We got our S9 in, so you know, it's right here. It's black, so I mean, really no difference. But we'll have more videos of the S9. We have our camera test, so we did an extensive one. It's like 10 minutes, photos, videos, low light, daytime, extreme low light. I will tell you this: when it comes to extreme low lights, this camera is boss. That f1.5 just brings everything in. We have our gaming video on the S9. So if you're a gamer, mobile gamer, and we have a few videos there. If you want to see more games, I'm going to do a second gaming video. I'm going to put it on our gaming channel, Board Gamers, and we'll have a few, because a lot of people are asking about a bunch more games, so we'll do that. So you can just see how it performs and runs on the Galaxy S9 Plus, which also has more RAM at 6 gig as opposed to 4 gigs on the S9. we have, I keep forgetting what else we have on the channel because I almost feel like it's just all S9. We have our Huawei MateBook X Pro hands-on. Check that out. It's a really good looking laptop. And we got to spend some time checking out Far Cry 5 last week. That video is up. We were taken out to a ranch. There were some horses. It was cold. We got to shoot some crossbows, play the game. And, you know, since, you know, I'm African, I can hit targets pretty well. Just saying, you know.
Innate abilities of all Africans. You see that in the MMO stats. Special abilities.
This is why Google's
Shooting
missing out
targets.
with their hiring practices right now. Is amazing target.
Target
shooting.
practice, yeah. But yeah, Devin, check that video. It's a fun video. It's different. I got to talk to the game developer on what they were trying to do with the game. Also got to talk to a cult expert because this game centers around a cult. So he talks about that. I'm actually, what I'll do is I'll put the full interviews on Board Gamer as well for both the game developer and the cult expert together. So you guys can check it out. It's about 10 minutes. I just kind of cut it up into the video here and you can check out some gameplay. But next week, more S9 stuff as well. And then we have a laptop review coming up. It's the new Dell XPS 13 4K edition. I think that's pretty much it. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for watching, for commenting, and of course, jumping in the chat. I know we didn't spend too much time on the chat today, but please do leave comments. We appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and to any of the other hosts here, you should do that. Definitely check out Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell from Some Gadget Guy. That is his channel on YouTube. You can find him also on Twitter and as well as Instagram and Facebook as Some Gadget Guy. And then he hosts a show on Newegg with Trisha Hirschberger on Thursdays. So you can check that out as well. Mr. Warren Bowman, who left a little earlier, if you also listen to this on the podcast, his channel is BW1.com. You can find him on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook as BW1.com. And then Sam, aka Black Iron _man, whose lower third has finally showed up. I guess when Warren left, it popped up.
It popped up a little bit ago, but yeah.
Okay.
It just popped up all of a sudden.
You can follow him on Twitter. His handle is Black Iron _man. And of course, ours here is Booredatwork on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow us there. Follow the channels. Make sure you hit the notification icon as well to get notified with all our videos so you can actually watch and enjoy them. Thank you very much, and always enjoy your entertainment.
Yeah.